Howdy, folks. Welcome to the program Dollars and Cents. Joel Garris here of Nelson Financial Planning. This segment of the program, we're going to chat a little bit about some of the myths versus reality about your credit score. So before we start to talk about that, we'll get some of the numbers on the table, right? The average credit score in America today is about 706. Negative information stays on your credit score about 7 years. There are 47 states that allow your credit score to be part of the factors involving how much you get charged for your auto insurance premium. So it affects you. The old credit score affects you in a lot of ways in which you don't think that it does. Combined with the fact that what is even more disturbing is the average credit card balance in America today is $8,600. And the rate, on average, 17%. So credit card debt, not a good thing to have. What makes up that credit score? Well, it's usually a mix of 5 different things. Payment history usually accounts for about 35%. The amount you owe accounts for 30%. And the length of your credit history, how long you've had debt, about 15%. Whether you've gotten new credit recently, that's another like 10%. And then the credit mix that you have, another 10%. So there's a number of things that go into that credit score, and that obviously is what creates a lot of myths versus reality. So we'll spend some time talking through them. One of the things we did this past week is we posted a chart courtesy of the folks at Wall Street Journal. They had a chart that actually had like green and yellow and orange and red and some of the activities that you can do and whether they were a positive or a negative on your credit score. So be sure to check that out on our social media, and you'll find that picture that we took from the Wall Street Journal. So some good information there. One of the biggest myths associated with your credit score is a lot of folks think that if I check my score, that's going to adversely impact me. And that's where you really have to draw the distinction between a hard inquiry versus a soft inquiry. So a hard inquiry is, hey, I'm making an application for a loan. Obviously, that's going to affect your credit score by a few points. Why? Because the credit bureaus look at it and say, well, wait a minute, why is he applying for credit? Why does he need credit? Is he in trouble? Is he trying to borrow money to help pay his bills? That's why when you'd have a hard inquiry, meaning I'm applying for a new loan, why you would see that affect your credit score by a few points. In contrast to that are soft inquiries. Softer inquiries would be ones made by your employer, and so those types of inquiries are considered soft and aren't a direct hit on your credit score. They don't rise to the same level of request. That's just an informational request. And so an informational request isn't going to affect your credit score like that hard inquiry for looking for a new credit would. Another very popular myth is that all you need to do is to pay your bills on time. And that's the way in which you will achieve the best possible credit score. Well, if you think back to those 5 pieces of information that make up your credit score, payment of the bills was only one part of them. Now, granted, it was the largest component, but there were a lot of other components that come into play, particularly when you think about credit utilization. How much of your credit are you using? If you're constantly going out and maximizing out all of your credit cards, that presents a picture that's going to actually adversely impact your credit score, regardless of whether you pay them off each and every month. So remember, it's about to get the best possible credit score. it really is about how you utilize your credit. So one of the things that you really may want to do is if you've got a couple of different credit cards and there's one sort of like most people where that you use predominantly, and let's say that particular month there's some larger expenses on that, so you're running up closer to the limit, you may really want to take out that second credit card and use that then for the remainder of the month so that it doesn't look like you are overutilizing the credit on one particular card. So general rule of thumb is you always want to use about 30% or so of the available credit. Obviously, lower on that is better. Ideally, you want to be at 10%. But once you start kind of getting up to the 30% mark of your credit limit, then it really may be better to switch over and use a different card. So again, that credit utilization aspect, that piece that comes into play for determining your credit score doesn't adversely impact how much you are hitting your credit score. So it's not just about making the payments and making the payments on time and paying off the credit cards. It's really understanding the different pieces that go into that credit score and understand that it is about proper use of credits as well, not just making sure that the bills are all getting paid on a timely basis. Another popular myth that comes up is the notion that, well, if I close an old card, I've got a card, I haven't been using it, and I'm just going to close it, and that will help my credit score because I won't have that additional amount of credit out there. And that's understandable where that logic comes from. But the problem with that is that then eliminates a piece of credit history that has a long tenure. And one of those elements that comes into play for your credit score is, in fact, the length of your credit history. So the more of those old cards you sort of, okay, I'm done. I haven't really been using it. I'm just going to get rid of it. I'm going to close it down. The more you do that, the more you shorten the length of your credit history. So by reducing that longevity, it will, in fact, have an adverse effect on your FICO score. Similarly, another question that people think that would affect their credit score is if you wind up comparison shopping. Let's say, you're getting a mortgage or you're looking at a car loan or something like that, and you go to a bunch of different places and ultimately do some comparison shopping for rates and terms. And you think, oh my goodness, if I'm asking 2 or 3 different people during this comparison shopping process, they're all pulling my credit, and that's going to adversely affect my credit score. Well, certainly when you inquire for new credit, it does affect your credit score, but the credit bureaus will generally group inquiries of the same type together. They know or they understand that you are, like any consumer, doing some comparison shopping. And so if they see a bunch of different inquiries, then they will wind up sort of grouping those all together within like a 14-day period, or sometimes it's as long as a 45-day period. But if you're shopping around, you've got to make sure that you're doing that within a particular time frame and not spreading it out over weeks and months when you are doing that. So that's some of the things that you can do to try and improve your credit score, and also to make sure that you understand the real things that come into play as it relates to your credit score. We'll have that and more when we return here on Dollars and Cents. This is Joel Garris of Nelson Financial Planning, News Radio, WFLA, Orlando.